tell you that sometimes the proverb that says empty barrels make the loudest noise.
That's nice, yeah.
So you will probably see that, right? And you'll be like, what's going on? But you see, you're going to sit down there and people who have less credentials, less knowledge, less everything than you get promoted over you or get, to a particular point over you. And you'd be wondering, you know, what happened? What happened is that the loudest voices get rewarded, or the person who, kind of makes it look like they are working. I worked in the hospital system for 11 years and I saw this happen consistently. Like the people who seemed like they were always working and doing the thing almost like got more face time than you who are just sitting there churning through things. Now, the supervisors, if they look through the reports, they'll probably see you are doing your work, but they're not doing that, right? They're basically looking at the person who comes and says, oh, I looked at 10 orders today. This patient had this patient had that. Meanwhile, you looked at 100 orders, but you didn't say anything, right? So that's something that again, right, there's a lot of paradox and we just have to be aware, mindful of that and use it strategically. I'm going to say that, use it strategically, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One thing, let me just add to that. One thing you quickly learn in diaspora is code switching, right? Not just in language, but in the respect culture. Like back home, titles are, how we show honor. Sir, ma, doctor, engineer, auntie, uncle, for people who barely know. Here, using someone's first name isn't disrespect. It communicates that you see yourself as a peer. Because in the US, and again, we're using US because that's what we're really familiar with. I mean, the US, respect is horizontal. There's their, perception of equality. Now, I'm currently living in Korea where it's a totally different, form of it's like more relational. But you have to learn how to read the room. In some rooms, formality ends respect. In others, it makes people doubt your competence or authority, like Fumi mentioned. So the trick is knowing which environment you're in and adjusting without shrinking yourself, right? But
Mhm.
make sure you're not doing that to disappear because before people even hear you talk, how you respond to them, they've already concluded about you. You know, you don't give them enough material for them to look at you as less than. And trust me, they can quickly see through you. And unfortunately, if you're black, some people already have that mentality that, oh, this person is just already less than. That's just the, honest truth. And
Mhm.
not that you can change everybody's mind, but as best as you can represent yourself with confidence, go for it.
Mhm.
Now, that doesn't mean that I should be rude and, just be too
Yeah,
informal. No.
yeah, yeah. So I'm going to add to that though, right? And I'll tell you what is that the thing that Dr. Mo said of read the room, I think might be the most important because in the US, in this US, there are places where unspoken, they want that formality and you don't know it and you go in there, calling them by their first name and they're looking at you like, what's wrong with this girl, right? Like, so it's almost like you come in and you think, oh, this place is, what you call egalitarian, flat. But there are some places where the people, that are, I would say, in charge want to enforce that, but they don't come out and say it publicly, right? They're not, because it's like ridiculous. Why would you be wanting me to use your title? But you see them when they're almost like, you know, talking to you, they will use their titles. They will kind of keep like inferring, right, that that title is kind of preferred. So you just want to be very mindful of that, in that sense. Okay.
These are great topics and questions, by the way. Thank you guys for bringing that up.
Okay. So where's our UK person? Okay, that's Gift. She's not, I think she's dropped off.
Yeah, okay.
Because I wanted to hear from her just her particular experience because this is what I've heard anecdotally from the people in the UK that the British are just so polite, right? And so you think they're telling you one thing, meanwhile they're saying almost like the exact opposite, but you're not getting it
Look at
because
it.
they're they're kind of saying the regular thing, but they actually mean the opposite. So something to be mindful of. That doesn't happen in the US. The US, there's too much directness, right? If you ask me.
Mhm.
So yeah, so there's that. Okay. So any other, you know, questions around that before we maybe answer another question that we have, we have a list of questions that were
Prepared for it.
sent
Yeah.
in and prepared. Yeah. So I do like that we're all, I guess, in different um
Geographical areas. Yeah.
and also different contexts, right? So it allows us to speak to the more common things, you understand? So it's not like we're all going to be speaking only about academia, right? In that sense. So
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
I think that's Sheung, right?
Mhm. Back to
No,
school.
that's Fumi. It's Fumi.
Fumi. Yeah. Fumi is in the finance sector. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
finance sector.
Mhm.
So tell us, do you your the place where you are, because again, finance sector, but then you're in Omaha, Nebraska, right? So you'd have the culture of the Omahans
Hmm.
compared to the culture of the US, right? So there's also that almost like regional difference, which someone has to be mindful of. Are you required, right, to again, when I say required, I'm putting it in air quotes. Are you required to go out, for like client dinners, those kinds of things? Like, what's the level of socializing that you think is required of you, on the job? And are you meeting up to that? Like, what is where do you think you stand, right?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Otito. I can definitely respond to that.
Mhm.
Uh, so it's pretty much always like a trick of balance because, like in the finance industry, you really need to come out strongly. Like you have to be an extrovert. You have to be not just loud, but if you know stuff, you need to be loud about that you know it. Otherwise, it's assumed you don't know it. And it's
Yeah.
also an industry where it's actually okay to say, oh, that's an interesting question. You know
Mm.
what? Let me do a quick deep dive. It technically means I don't know Jack, but let me
Mhm.
go find out what you're talking about. So right now for me, there's a bit of high level social skills required because you're dealing with people's money. They need to feel like you can be trusted, and they also need to feel like you can be respected with their money
Okay.
because you're representing an institution they respect. So it's almost like you have to take on the image of the company you represent so that the clients can feel comfortable with you. And yes, you're right. There are times I found myself in conversations where I can clearly tell that the client would like to be addressed as, say, Major General or Mrs. or Doctor. Some of them you can clearly tell because they're very proud about the achievement and they talk about it a lot. So in such social interactions, I tend to use the title because it makes them feel respected. So for example, when you're talking to people who served the nation, we're quick to say, oh, thank you so much for your service, Major General, blah, blah, blah. And it just makes them feel like good in a conversation. So it's still it's still a lot for me to deal with. I would say I'm an extrovert within the African context because I'm an Ibadan girl. So we know how to greet people, we know how to do eye service. But within the American context, as much as Americans, like the clients feel like they want to talk to you, right? But at the same time, they're not willing to talk about the real stuff. So they want to talk about the weather. I'm an Ibadan girl. I'm like, hey, me at the weather, like, what's my business with weather? Can we talk about something more serious in the room?
Mhm.
So for me, I think it's just the constant openness to learn and to accept and embrace the fact that I'm in a new place. I have to learn the culture. The Midwestern culture is very, for example, polite, very family friendly. So people are comfortable talking about their kids. They're okay with you asking about their children. But also, I deal with people that are not in the Midwest. So you're talking to someone in California who is maybe in her 70s and doesn't have kids and chose not to have kids by choice. I have to be mindful that I don't get into conversations regarding a family because maybe that's something she doesn't want to talk about. So it's constant. I feel a bit of anxiety sometimes because sometimes I don't literally know what to even say to the person. But I remain open And I remain curious. So I'm always quick to ask questions. Oh, okay. So what are you doing today? What do you find exciting? Just to give me a bit of insight about the person I'm interacting with. But I can't deny the fact that it's been a lot. It's been very stressful, just adapting and changing, and equally saying I've not lost my identity. I've not lost who I am. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like, we ourselves have learned from you. And there's a word you used, and I think that that's what Aura is trying to mitigate for people. That stressfulness, because it is stressful.
Yeah.
Acculturation is stressful.
All kind of stress,
Yeah,
acculturated stress.
yeah. And we don't kind of talk about it enough, right? Everyone just assumes you can come in and, adapt, but it's almost like different, right? For different people. Some people are thrown right into the river and they have to swim, by kind of watching people around there. Because that's what happened to me when I came. I would go into a place, let's say a restaurant, and I'm like literally watching what people are doing, right? I'm just like, okay, what are they like bringing out their credit cards? You know what I mean? So I was kind of just looking around to see. And then obviously I'll call my friends who were here before to say, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? So these are all ways, right? But I feel like now there's so much information, as opposed to, like I said, 20 years ago. But then sometimes the information is too much. You don't even know how to, you know, trickle it down to what you need. And sometimes you can get like completely wrong information. So you need to be mindful about that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll just add to that by saying that, reiterating what I said earlier on, I think one of the best things you will learn as an immigrant is how to be adaptable. And unfortunately, the onus of adaptability will be on you because you're the one who left your country, your safe zone, as it were,
Yep.
being to expand another culture. So that's going to be on you. And I 100% get what you're saying. For me, the mental gymnastics of constantly having to connect, read cues, and figure people out, almost like you have to have a second degree in sociology. But again, one thing this immigrant journey has taught me is that every culture, every country has its own social code, and part of surviving is learning how to switch. When I came from Nigeria to the US, I remember one time someone was picking me up and she kept saying, "How are you?" And I just told her, "Let's skip past the pleasantry. Can we just go?" And everybody in the car just started laughing. And they thought it was a bit rude, but I just got from Nigeria. So, those small talks, we don't do it. But I've started doing, how was your day? How was the weekend? How are your kids? But now that I'm in Korea, oh my goodness, completely different game. And being in my almost nearing 40, I feel like I'm not quite as flexible. Here, you don't even no warm-up chatter. Somebody does something for you. You don't bother saying thank you. Even when you're saying things, because that you have to say it quickly. You get straight to the point. You don't want to waste their day. And which is kind of different from, in the US, somebody does a favor for you, you want to sit them down and be like, "Oh my goodness, thank you so much. That was so," no, just get straight to the point. Don't even thank them, just walk away. So again, adaptability becomes your superpower as an immigrant. You learn to read the room, adjust your tone, your approach, and still stay true to yourself. The way I see it, I'm just creating avatars of myself as I go. So I have boxed my US part, I've put it in a room. When I get to the US, I'll carry that version and control. I'll do like a recovery, what's the word? When you create recovery points in your system.
Very recovery.
Yeah, recovery point. Now I'm living like a Korean. I'm learning to just go as I go. Again, if honestly, if there's one gift from this whole diaspora life is that you become someone who can thrive anywhere because you know how to shift without losing who you are. You're doing great, okay? Even on
Mhm,
the days it looks like a lot.
mhm. So I
Yeah.
want to get from Sheung, the person who is, beginning school, right? I'm not sure if you can speak. You said you're starting in the spring semester. Is that something that you um, want to hear from us? Are there questions you have as you're going in, right? Because, entering an academic environment has its own, um, almost like Dr. Mo was saying, the things that you have to learn, right? So obviously, you have to do very well in the courses. If you don't do well, there's no leg to stand on, right? In that sense.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you have to just be really great at what you're doing. Now, the other thing that can happen, which sometimes I don't think people recognize, and we're saying this from experience, if you come in and the first semester, it feels like you're in over your head, you need to quickly, find a course that you can switch to, right? And switch. Not that that would happen to you, but I'm just saying sometimes people stay and they're like, you know, I can handle
Have to
this.
be
And by the
yeah,
time
yeah.
you get to the point, it's too late. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. When I came here, I had to do organic chemistry. Even thinking about it now is giving me like PTSD, right? So the organic chemistry in the US is not the same as the one in Nigeria. I do not know how to explain this thing to you because in Nigeria, we said we did organic chemistry, we had this professor, all that, but it was two-dimensional. Like, and when I mean two-dimensional, you're drawing all your things on paper, just answering like rubbish questions. Then you come here where it's literally three-dimensional. You had to think in terms of planes, orbitals, atoms, electrons. I was so lost. Like, I'm telling you, the first semester, I was like, who sent me? I cried so much. I was like, you know? But then I'm like, no, 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 I have to get this. You understand? So I'm looking for like colleagues, right, in the classroom. Thankfully, there was a Nigerian girl there as well who was, she read chemistry and she was then coming to do her master's in chemistry. So, we studied every weekend. I was in her house because I'm just like, I don't know what these people are saying, but I have to get it. You understand? Because I was on a fellowship, so I could not afford, right, to have my GPA drop below a certain level. I'm thinking back now, and I think I got a B plus in that course. And I'm telling you that is one of my greatest achievements because it was like being thrown into the ocean and asked to swim to shore. Like there was no relationship between what we did in Nigeria and what I came here, what that course was like here. But it's the same organic chemistry, right? So that happens where sometimes you kind of come in and the depth at which they're doing the work, which they expect you to know, they're not going to start teaching you the basics, right? So sometimes that depth overwhelms people. And one needs to be mindful of that very quickly and not let I would say if my allegory of water, not let that water, go over your head, right? In that sense. So that's what I would say. Any other comments? I see somebody just joined us, Abimbola. Please tell us where you are coming from, what you're currently doing, how long you've been, abroad, as we say, how long you've been here.
Okay, good day, ma. So my name is Abimbola Olashupo. I'm calling, I'm in the United Kingdom. I got here, I think about 3 months now. It's just been 3 months, yes. I'm
Okay.
currently running my master's program for data science. Yes.
Okay. And how's that going?
It's going fine. We're getting used to everything, yeah, but it's going fine, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Abimbola
What
used to be
what
our
city?
VA, by the way. Used to be our VA for the podcast, by the way. Yeah.
Gotcha. So what city?
London, but I'll say
Okay.
more specifically, Hertfordshire.
Okay. Okay. So there's two of you then.
Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
spoke to Gift, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was somebody here, she kind of dropped off. Her name is Gift. I know she said she's at the University of Hertfordshire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Most like yeah.
Do you know her? Do you happen to know her?
Gifts, maybe I don't think I do know her personally, but pro she probably joined via because I communicated the link towards my group,
I
my
see.
school
Okay.
group. Yeah, so she probably might have joined from there,
Okay.
but not
Okay.
personally.
Okay, okay. That's very interesting because I'm like, somebody just said they were from the University of Hertfordshire. Okay. So how is that going? And we were just asking the people in the room to say, what is something that has been, I don't want to say your greatest challenge, but something that you've had to, walk through, right? Having come from Nigeria to the UK, is there something that you think, oh, I didn't know this, now I have to kind of get used to this?
Um, I would say mostly for me to just be communication. So it's my class, I would say percentage of people who are from Africa now, even specify Africa, not just Nigeria. It's more or less like 5 to 10%. The majority of the class are from different cultures. We have the Pakistans, the Indians, the British, and people from Japan and other places. So it's not easy to communicate. I only communicate with people within my sphere. So, like I said, it's not easy to communicate outside my sphere because of it's just once in a while you say, hi, my name is this, my name is that. So we can't quite communicate. And one of my thinking before coming here was, oh, I'm going to get to meet people, and I'm going to get to meet other people, network and connect. But it hasn't really been going the way I'd expect or I'd planned it to be for now, sir.
Okay. So, Dr. Mo, can you speak to this? My question to you is, when you say we're not able to communicate, is it the language barrier or just like people not being friendly or not reaching out, right? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Okay, I wouldn't particularly say more language barrier because I think we are able to communicate in English language, even though we both like speak different, I would say have different accents to it. Yeah, but it is more, I think maybe cultural wise. So it's easy for me to have a communication, and this is by way of actually sustaining the conversation with my Nigerian people there than talking to the only time I'd held a conversation that actually went long was in one of our lab sessions where I think it was an Indian. He needed help with the practicals that we were doing at the time, and I just offered help, and that was mostly it. So, but to communicate beyond normal Nigerian, we can say how far, how you doing now, where you coming from, like share things that we have in common per se. Well, it is not really that way with other persons, and it's not something that I think is unique to me. Like I said, my Nigerian people, we talk very well. In fact, we have a WhatsApp group, and that I created. I created the WhatsApp group, hoping that it was going to be for the general class, but it's been hard, like I said, to communicate with them, even to have them come to the group. So, but yeah, yes.
Yeah. So, Abimbola, you've described what every one of us has gone through. I went through exactly that. So if you're be friendly, I mean, I think I'm a friendly person. When I moved abroad, it was super difficult making friends. And there's something someone said about Americans. They can be friendly, but they're not necessarily quick to make friends with you. And as we're, talking about that, I really felt that. And I think it's because we have that cultural expectation that, proximity automatically equals connection. Once I get there, I'll meet friends, I'll meet people, I'll find my tribe. Reality is that networking abroad isn't automatic, it's intentional and slow. And your greatest allies will still be those immigrant people. Because when they say misery loves company, just, again, new country doesn't always mean new people, but just give
Yes.
it time. Give it time. It's
Yes.
built slowly, And they're also sizing you up the way you're sizing them up. They also complain that, oh, I don't have friends, I haven't met people yet. But sometimes your community ends up being those other immigrants who are also looking for connection. So, and it might not necessarily be people you assume you bond with. So you're not doing anything wrong. You're just in that in-between space, which is that space between the life you imagine that hasn't formed yet. So keep showing up, keep, being open. And the people you are looking for, they exist and they're looking for you too, and also people and I know that one thing I also know is that people engage with you when they need something, like asking for help with classwork. I remember one of my greatest allies in grad school then were these three ladies. We formed, we call ourselves Stats Ninja. We took this very super hard statistics course and we couldn't drop out of it, unlike Dr. Tito's advice. We wanted to hold on to it tightly. And we had to set up a Stats Ninja group. So we rotate each other's houses and study, share past questions together. And it's been how many years since grad school now? We still once in a while on Facebook, they pop on my feed and say, "Oh, hi, Stat Ninja, you're doing great." Again, nothing is wrong with you. It's just you just have to give it time. Give it time and keep showing up, keep being open. Again, your people exist and they're looking for you too. It just takes time and it's slow. And they don't know your culture. It's not going to be copy and paste. There'll be so many lonely periods. You see people on the streets, but no, not your own people. Like you just want someone that can get
Exactly.
your joke. You glance at someone, they can get that joke and then you nod your head. You'll find it. Give it time.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm
You'll
going
find
to
it.
Thank
add
you, ma.
something here. And you said something, and you're right on the mark in terms of the culture, right? The cultural differences. So that's a big one, I'll tell you, with Southeast Asians, right? First of all, the language, like you said, we speak English differently, so there's that, but that's not necessarily a problem. But you kind of have to almost like be aware of their own cultural systems, right? So you don't internalize this. And what do I mean by cultural systems? I'm going to get to that in a bit. But then the other part that I wanted to talk about was, one of the best ways I'll tell you to get people together. I don't know if you know this, is like what we call here a potluck, right? You just, bring food and invite people, right? Tell them to bring their own food. They bring your own food. Now, this is why jollof rice is a hit. Like anybody can have it, whether you're vegan, whether you're anything, right? People will eat
Yes.
rice because there's nothing in it. It's just plain rice. And Southeast Asians, they are the ones that gave us the rice, if you understand what I mean. So they
Yes,
can,
very well.
So that's something. That's one way I would tell you to be maybe the person who almost like extends a hand, right? Like Christmas or this celebrations are coming, so you can just kind of do that, you understand? But the other part I wanted to talk about when I talk about cultural systems, right, is that, the Indians have a caste system, right? You understand this? And so from that perspective, there's what you call untouchables. So many
Yeah.
of, I think, are still almost like they themselves having to almost like reorient themselves to say that they are in this class with people, when I mean class, classroom, right? With
Yes.
people who in their country they will not have related with in any way, shape, or form, right? Now, saying this sounds like, oh, why are you saying it? But it's the honest to God truth, right? And so it's
Yes.
good to be very aware of that really quickly. You understand? So that you're not internalizing anything. You understand what I'm saying? It's not about you at all. It's just their own cultural systems are so strong, right? It's almost like harder for them to break out, which is why you see them so like tightly bonded or tightly knit. And then
Yes,
you
very well. Yes.
on the outside looking in. So just recognize that. And like Dr. Mo said, find your people. Now that again, there's always an exception to every rule, right? That doesn't mean that you will not find one of them who is more, I would say forward thinking, progressive, and all of that, and who is ready, right, to do this. So what I'm saying is not general, but I'm just telling you that there's a cultural, I would say, underpinning to some of the things that you see, and we need to be aware of that, right? So Nigeria becomes a very interesting country in this sense because as heterogeneous as we are, we're still very open. You know what I mean? Like if 5 Nigerians are here, it doesn't matter if you're Efik or Ibibio or this or you know what I mean. Wherever you're from, everyone just comes together because, oh, it's us. The Indian people, when they get together, they know each other. They kind of know who belongs to what. And their associations kind of go by that, right? So even though they're from the same
Yes.
country, you find some of them not associating with other people from their country because, like, on a religious basis or whatever basis, they're not supposed to do that, right? So even they kind of have their own internal, I would say, hierarchy. Now, that's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with you, right? So just keep doing what you need to do, right? Which is kind of inviting people, hey, come together, potluck. However, I'm not sure how the UK works, but in the US, potlucks are the fastest way to kind of just get to know people a little bit. They bring their own foods, they'll tell you about it, You then have conversations outside of the classroom.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I also want to
Thank you.
take the conversation a little bit outside of the classroom, right? If there's so much pressure to make friends from your classes, take it outside of school. So
Mhm.
I've built community from church. My church had a small group,
Mhm.
and they became my lifeline. My mom, when I was moving here, that was one of the things she said, find yourself a church group. And I've since replicated that. We moved around the US a lot. Now in South Korea is one of the first things I did. I really worked on finding a church community. Now, if you're not of faith, that's fine. I did find another community through Toastmasters. And the beautiful thing about the church thing for me was, like, for example, spring break. We don't celebrate spring break in Nigeria. We'll have this whole week of no school. Like, what are we supposed to be doing? But they would, pick places around the US. We went skiing in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Me, Nigerian skiing. I've never even gone skiing ever before. So I got to do a lot of great experience. I went horseback riding. I went cliff that
Wow.
Original things that I did because I made friends from people that were not of the same culture. So again, find those things you love doing. Maybe you can join a coding group. I ran for office within the student government, health director. I got to meet more people. We started doing more of policy. So find what you're interested in, and make those small communities. That'll also make you feel more what's the word, connected as well.
Connected,
Again,
yes.
shared
Very
interest.
important. Yeah, yeah.
And
And this is
go on,
so
go.
critical because the weather is changing. It's getting really cold. It's going to get
Cold,
really
yeah.
cold, right?
Yes.
And, at least here in the US, you talk about seasonal affective disorder. I don't know any Nigerian that suffers from that, but it can be very debilitating because you look outside at 4 o'clock and it's pitch dark, at least where I
Yeah.
am, right? So the sooner you can get to, almost like do some of these social things that Dr. Mo is talking about, the
Yes, sir.
better I think the quicker the cold season would go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for a lot of these
Very
meetings,
well.
they've also transitioned online. So, for example, Toastmasters, before COVID, BC, you couldn't even see a lot of virtual groups. But now there's so many virtual groups popping out. If you love listening to podcasts, they have like virtual listening groups. Again, find your community, find your people. They don't necessarily have to be from people from your class, but don't do life alone because your mental health, ah, I didn't know how bad of depression and anxiety that I had until I moved to the US. Maybe in Nigeria, the socialization, as you're leaving your house, people are having conversations with you, whether you are giving them consent to, I'm a gay fine girl, come here.
Yes,
You
yes,
don't you that all those micro conversations you're having with or without
yes.
your permission, they are doing things to your mental health. Now, in a country where you are hyper visible but also invisible at the same time, there's a thing it does to your mental health. And if you're introvertish, it can even make it, go down, especially during the cold weather. We don't
Yeah.
have colds in Nigeria.
Imagine.
Sunny all year long, right? So please, don't
Well,
don't
there's
don't neg-
Hamatan, but Hamatan is nothing, right, compared to
Yeah.
Amata has gone away in Lagos with all
all
this
right,
pollution
compared to
yeah, to whatever.
what's
Yes, yes.
here. And I
Yeah,
know the United Kingdom is even colder, right? Like,
yeah,
let me tell you, that London cold,
yeah.
yeah, I don't play with it. My first time in the UK was in February. I almost froze to death. It was
Yeah.
a
And
February,
and your
like,
and your
who sent me.
yeah. Your community also determines the level of information you get,
Yeah.
right? Be very, very careful of the kind of advice you're listening to.
Yep.
People give you advice sometimes based
Yeah.
on the seed of procession,
Yes. Yeah.
and they recycle it as gospel truth.
Yep.
Please don't,
Yeah.
surround yourself
Very
with,
important.
that's one thing,
Important.
calibrating your community. Because they will give it to you like, oh, I've been here longer, you should listen to me. Go
Mhm.
and do this, go
Yeah.
and do that. But what if
Yeah.
that's not your path?
Yep. Very
Your
important.
community,
Exactly.
yeah,
I
so
have
yeah.
a friend who, was working in the banking sector, and I always like to give the stories, what people call improbable stories, to tell you things are possible. A lot of things are possible. Used to work in the bank, moved here, started out in New York City, kind of started with family there before they moved to Pennsylvania. And everyone said to him, go and, drive taxi, this, that. He was like, I want to work in the bank. It's like, yeah, it's impossible, this and that. That person did not do any other thing. They entered a bank and they became a vice president, right? So if they had listened to all of the, people who were talking to them to go drive a taxi. Not saying there's anything wrong with driving a taxi, right? Some of these people even make more money than those of us in white collar jobs. So, it's not about that, but it's about what you want, where you see yourself versus people telling you, X, Y, Z. So that would be one thing that we're going to leave with everyone, I would say. Dr. Mo said it wonderfully, right? And that's what Aura will do for you, right? You come here, you're going to get what we'll say sound advice, because we want you to get to the pinnacle of whatever you want to do abroad, right? The thing again, I say, well, no matter what's going on in the government, no matter what's going on here, this country offers, or the West offers a lot of opportunity, right? Opportunities that we may not have gotten back in Nigeria. So I don't want us to discount that. I feel like no matter what we say, it's like this place has offered us, many, many gifts, right? In that sense, regardless of what's happening. So yeah. Yep. I think we can wrap it up on that note. We're going to do a session 2, right? So just, be on the lookout for that. And for that, we want you to come with maybe something that we can workshop through. I call it workshopping, right? We can workshop through. So
Yeah. Before we go, we had 2 people join us, Bukumi and Omaomi. I don't know if they have like pressing questions. And we plan to host this open mic sessions every month and taking different topics. But even if whatever we're talking about doesn't really pertain to your situation, we still want to prioritize you first, and see how we can help support your diaspora movement and migration, as it were. Hi, Omaomi. Hi, Bukumi. Are there any questions or things we can talk about quickly before we?
Oh no, I know. Hi everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. I woke up late, so I was just like, oh my God. But I'm glad that I caught just a little bit of this. Dr. Tito, it's good to see you as well. Dr. Mo, it's good to see you. Yeah.
Good to
All
see
right.
you. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Tito has to hop off. But we just want to say thank you all so much. We can you put our email in the chat as well? We're also on Instagram and we're on LinkedIn. We post a lot on those platforms. And since you're already subscribed to our feed with the Zoom link, we'll send you notifications for when next we have this session. We have one scheduled for sometime in December, but we'll send that out. But again, this is something we're very passionate about, just to provide support. And thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Tito, for being here today, and for everyone as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And Aura again is a multi-generational Black diaspora advocacy platform dedicated to amplifying your voices and your stories. We explore the challenges and triumphs of migration, and we create spaces for connection, cultural preservation, and identity. Through community engagement, advocacy, and storytelling, we're ensuring that your journeys are remembered, lived well, shared, and passed on. And in December, we are launching a mentoring and coaching program specifically for Black diasporans. So whether you need support navigating your academic journey, career development, mental health, parenting across culture, or just finding your community, we are building resources designed for you. So everything you need in one place, no more hours of searching. We're making support accessible. And this conversation today, again, is just the beginning. Follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Our Roots and Routes. We post regularly about mental health, career development, cultural identity, diaspora life. Also share this session. If you know a student who needs to hear this, please send them the recording when we post it. Let's make sure no one navigates their first year alone. And 3, tell us what you need. What topics you want us to cover next? What resources would help you the most? You can send us a chat or send us an email. We're building this with you, not just for you. And 4, please be kind to yourself. Seriously, this journey is hard. You have done something that most people would dread, doing. And moving to a new country, starting a new life in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, whatever age, you've done something, really, really amazing, and you're doing better than you think. So again, we hope that you are gentle with yourself. And the fact that you showed up today, that you're seeking support, that you're willing to be vulnerable, ask questions, that's strength, that's courage. Your ancestors didn't cross oceans so you could shrink. They crossed oceans so you could expand, so you could thrive, so you could become. And on hard days, because there'll be hard days, remember you're not alone. You have us, we have each other, your journey matters, and we'll see you in the community. We'll see you at the next session. We'll see you thriving. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. All right. Sorry, hello, Taminola.
Hello, how are you?
Fine. Sorry, the meeting just ended,
Oh,
but we'll send the
wow.
recording to your mail, and
Oh,
we'll send a
wow.
reminder. We haven't done one in coming up in December.
December, okay. Okay.
Yes,
Can you send me a reminder as well, please?
yes, I'll definitely send and a copy of the recording with the link.
Oh, thank you very much. That'll be fine.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Yeah.
Have a nice
Take care.
day.
Thank you.
Yeah, you
Regards to
too.
everyone, yeah? Bye.
I will. Bye.
Yeah.